How's it going, everybody? My name is Liam and welcome back to the Liam's Plants channel. Today we're going to be doing another plant spotlight, taking a look at a specific plant, looking at my past experiences with the plant, and taking a look at our care information together. So today we're going to be taking a look at a specific succulent. This is a string of pearls, specifically the variegated string of pearls. So the string of pearls out in nature actually grows on the forest floor and just kind of expands and fills out this huge almost sea of little pearls, little green circles. It is pretty spectacular to see them out in nature. However, when grown indoors, a lot of people like to have them hanging up in a windowsill and have them grow down and down and down and down and down until they hit the floor. They make a nice, really full, lush pot and can be really enjoyable to look at and bring a lot of life to a space. So this guy, as I said, is the variegated string of pearls. So there is lots of white mixed in with the green, which I find just the perfect mix and the perfect coloring for this plant. Just brings so much vibrancy and difference to every single pearl, as some of them are all white, some of them are 50-50, some of them are all green. It's just sort of this little gamble with each little new growth, what you're gonna get, and it makes this really cool display as it grows up. So me and my string of pearls haven't had the smoothest journey ever, but it is getting better day by day. We did have a little bit of a rough patch about halfway through our journey, which we will cover together. I ran into some issues with spider mites, but they have since been removed and the plant is thriving again. So let's jump into the journey that I've had with my variegated string of pearls. The first photo is on May 4th when I received this plant as just a small little cutting. It was probably 2, 3, maybe 4 vines, and they were all sort of wrapped together in this little bundle. I got it online, purchased it through Etsy. It arrived in beautiful condition, and I didn't really want to mess with it too much, as I had read a lot about string of pearls having a hard time acclimating, and really disturbing their roots can easily kill the entire plant. So all I did was take it out of this little tiny, I think it was like a 2-inch pot, it was just a small little root ball, and placed it into this pot with some more surrounding media. I didn't mess with any of the roots, I didn't even touch the root ball, I simply just placed it into new media and filled around the outside. What I did fill in the media with was a nice mix of cactus soil, pumice, leca, perlite, and just a little bit of gritty mix, like succulent bonsai mix. It was a nice, well-draining, aerated mix, and it had probably just a little handful or two of potting soil in there, so it does have some moisture retention. When I received the plant, it was beautiful, in nice condition. There was no signs of any negatives. I didn't see any pests. There was no signs of overwatering. All the pearls were very plump and nice, so I was very, very excited to start this guy off as a small plant. I did have plans to continue spiraling it around the top of the pot and not just letting it sort of grow over the sides right away. We'll do that eventually, but I'd like to get a nice full lush top of the pot as well. This also allows more nodes to root into the soil, expanding the amount of vines in the plant. So the next photo I took is on May 30th. This guy was just growing like crazy. It had no signs of any sort of stress from being repotted within the next few days. I actually noticed new pearls coming out, but you can see the vines are sort of starting to expand out, snake out along the substrate, which is really cool to see how the variegation was continuing. If anything, it was getting even more vibrant, so I knew this guy was getting plenty of light. I had it right on my southern windowsill, so it was getting blasted by the sun, and this was in the summer months. It was very, very happy there. So July 17th is the next photo I took of my variegated string of pearls, and this was after it had been battled by and recovered from spider mites. This guy did get infected between the previous picture and July, and it was a pretty mild infestation. I just noticed one day a couple of little red bugs scurrying along a couple of the pearls, and upon closer inspection I did see some actual webbing, so I was pretty easily able to confirm it was spider mites. I was pretty upset because succulents are pretty finicky, and I had seen a lot of people lose their strings of pearls to different types of bugs, and even if they were able to battle the pests away, whatever they were using to treat the pests can even harm these strings of pearls because their root system is very shallow. There's lots of very fine, hairy roots, and whatever people have been using to treat treat it had also been harming the plant as well. So I was a little worried going into this, but it did end up surviving and battling through it and coming out the other side pretty much okay. What I did to combat the spider mites is once I noticed it, I immediately removed it from all the other plants it was near and used a diluted neem oil, Castile soap, and just some distilled water. I had that in a spray bottle and I just sprayed the heck out of this plant. Like every little nook and cranny was dripping with neemy, soapy water, which sounds a little gross, but it is good because it was able to suffocate all of the spider mites existing. And the big thing with pest treatment is it's not just a one and done. So every 2 or 3 days after that, for the next 2 weeks, I was doing the same thing, spraying every little nook and cranny with that neem oil Castile soap mix. And it did end up being enough to eradicate the spider mites. Any future spider mites that they may have laid eggs for were also killed in future treatments of the plant, and after 2 weeks I didn't notice anything except the plant was looking a little bit light starved because I couldn't have it in an ideal condition. So once I felt confident that there were no more pests, I put it back onto the windowsill and was ready for it to continue growing. So that was the only difficult part of our journey together, removing the pests and then dealing with some slight overwatering after. But after that moment, the rest of the plant journey has been very smooth. So the next photo I have here is on October 7th. The plant was rebounding from its spider mite infestation, and you can see the life really coming back to this plant. It was looking beautiful, vibrant, green, and the variegation was, as always, stunning to look at. Not a whole lot happened in between these months besides just some simple recovery time, so we'll just jump straight into the next photo. On November 13th, the plant was looking beautiful. I had a nice sunny day and I wanted to capitalize on it and take a bunch of pictures of all my plants. So this one was looking amazing in that nice light. You can see the white is just popping off the screen from the variegation, and the green is just so vibrant and almost neon-y. It's pretty cool to look at, and just seeing the pearls just expand and fill this whole pot when you compare it to the first photo is just pretty immaculate to look at. That about catches us up to the current day with the Variegated String of Pearls. I am absolutely loving this guy after we removed the pests, and now I've just been enjoying every single new pearl that's coming out, even as we're moving into the fall winter months. This guy is seeming to push out more and more growth. Now I will say that the distance between the pearls has started to expand a little bit, which is normal. It's getting a little bit less light, so it is reaching just a tiny bit for light, but that's okay. That is the normal thing for winter. What I do actually plan for this plant is to continue spiraling as many pearls as I can around the top of the pot, and then next spring I may actually go ahead and cut all of the plant up and make tons of little single node cuttings and try to get an incredibly dense pot of pearls with maybe like 20, 30, 50 strands. This is just sort of the base. We're laying the foundation, growing the plant for a little bit before we can really get it into its ideal aesthetical look. That is about it for our journey together. Let's quickly go over some of the care information. Now, succulents are a bit different than aroids, which I have the most experience with, so I am still learning a good amount about succulents, and let's jump into watering, probably the trickiest part with succulents, and once you nail it, this will make all of your care a lot easier. But watering the string of pearls is pretty simple. I just wait for the pearls to show physical signs of dehydration, and what these would be in the string of pearls I've found is the pearls will they'll almost desaturate, the color will become very dull, and you can almost squish them just a little bit. If you squish them after they're fully watered, they're very firm. They're not squishing at all. They're like little pebbles almost, but when they're really in need of water, they will become very loose, squishy, and you'll definitely feel that it needs water. I also look for wrinkling on the pearls. That's another sign that they need water. They'll sort of start to create these little wrinkles on the top of the pearl, and that's another great sign to look out for. I know a lot of people like to bottom water their string of pearls, but I actually have never done that. I have top watered every single time I have watered it because I like to flush the media of any buildup of minerals or salts, and the roots are allowed to get some nice new oxygen to them. My string of pearls dry out completely between waterings. Since I do wait for physical signs of dehydration, the pot is usually bone dry by the time that I actually water it, so I will give it a very thorough soak that way. But I found that's the best way, for me at least, to mitigate any overwatering. Next here we'll talk about lighting. Super easy, super simple. Succulents are grown out in deserts, out where they are under the sun all day, 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but they are under the sky, under the sun. Whenever the sun's out, they are getting sun. So you cannot put succulents in a corner, can't put them in a tiny bathroom with no windows. These guys need to be as close to the light as you can get them. All of my succulents sit on my windowsills where they can get as much light as I can possibly give them throughout the days, and they seem to like that a lot. Even if they're not getting blasted by direct sun, they are receiving indirect light the entire day while the sky is blue. So that is great for them. They love as much light as you can give them. Ideally, I'd get these guys under some grow lights and they would really start to thrive, but I can't just have grow lights all over my house. That would look ridiculous. So I find getting your succulents as close to the window as possible is the best way to care for them indoors. And lastly, we'll talk about soil. I did kind of run you through what was in this soil. So it is just a very succulent heavy mix. So it's got a lot of inorganic materials like perlite, pumice, leca, charcoal, and it doesn't have a ton of organic materials like potting soil or cocoa chunks or stuff that would retain a lot of moisture. You want your succulents to be in very non-moisture retaining substrates. Maybe 20% organic media, 80% inorganic media is sort of what I aim for. Lastly, fertilization, very similar and pretty much the same for all my plants. If it is the growing season, then I will fertilize this once a month, but now that it is the fall-winter months, I have stopped fertilizing and I'm just letting the plant rest and wait for spring to really push out a lot of growth. This guy hasn't really cared too much that I've stopped fertilizing it. It is still throwing out tons of new strands and pearls every single day, so I'm not too worried about this guy going forward. Even with less nutrients, it seems to be growing fine. But that about wraps up our journey together and care information for the variegated string of pearls. I highly recommend finding yourself a string of pearls or the variegated form. They are very rewarding plants. A little tricky, so get yourself ready for a possibly bumpy ride, but they have taught me so much about plant care and succulents and their different requirements from aroids, so I highly recommend finding a string of pearls. They will definitely add a nice accent to your plant world. Alright everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking some time away from your busy life to come and relax with me, learn about my plants, and enjoy the process with me. If you guys are still in need of some more content, I do have plenty of older backlogged videos, other plant spotlights. I also have recently been putting some effort into my TikTok, which is also called Liam's Plants. Has some shorter form plant content on there, so go ahead and check out one of those two options if you do want to see more of me. And other than that, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.